lost aspect of holy omniscience. If you remember, the other holy idea was transparency. So what it's pointing to is the transparency of boundaries. And when the boundaries are transparent, we're aware of the all and the abundance and the interconnectedness. There's discrimination, but there's no loss of anything. When the contact with that understanding is lost, we end up in the core belief, which is there's not enough. There's not enough energy, there's not enough of me, and there's a lot of demands upon me. So it causes my attention to move to the intrusions, the demands, the how can I find space and time for me. We see the passion of stinginess and the mental fixation of avarice. So think of it like hoarding. I'm hoarding my energy, I'm hoarding my resources because I feel like there's not enough, so I've got to keep what I've got, and that there's always kind of a demand upon me for that. The characteristics, so oftentimes we see the depth of knowledge and the mastery and the brilliance and the intellect and the capability that comes from having great knowledge. These are the folks who, they don't learn a little about something, they learn everything about it. Because why wouldn't you? You're not done until you know. So the knowing is a really important piece of it. That's what the seeking is, and it's to return to that state where I actually have access to complete knowing with discrimination. So they're really quite great at making very subtle discriminations. Their reactivity gets flared up when you intrude upon their personal space, their stuff, their cave, when you want too much from them, when you're too big, too loud, too fast. The isolation of affect is the defense mechanism. So it's essentially, think of it as, because we all have emotions, it's setting it aside. It's taking it out of the picture. My sense of it is that it's almost like the internal highway that connects everything up. They've kind of rerouted the emotions out of the picture, and they go into their head to think about things. So it's how they understand everything is through the intellect and through the mind. And as a result, we often don't see the contact with the emotional landscape. And I think that throws us off a little bit. I think they have an exquisite sensitivity, and that's why they've had to set aside, because of their, it feels like just a whisper actually affects them. And most of the world isn't a whisper. So they've had to set that aside. They've had to isolate parts of themselves. And that's what holds it all together. So they just set it aside and move into the mind and the knowledge and the place of comfort. Want to add anything?
The only piece that I would add is sometimes that isolation of affect can feel like a lot of walls between you and them.
Mm-hmm.
That like there's a lot of distance. And they're contracted back from contact with you and contracted back from contact with their own emotions.